Welcome to Real Estate Success DFW, the podcast where top producing agents from Dallas-Fort Worth come together to share their stories and strategies behind their success. I'm Shaune Corbett, your host, and with over 300 million sold in the local real estate market and the honor of being best of D multiple times, I know what it takes to make it in this market. Each episode, we're going to dive into the world of real estate, learning from the very best in the industry. If you're ready to level up your game, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Thanks, everyone, jumping in. It's Shaune Corbett, and I've got a big day today. I've actually got probably my most famous person ever that I've had on the podcast, Tony King. He was the broker of record for all of Texas, went from like 6,000 to like 9,500 or something, almost 10,000. Big growth there. And obviously EXP saw the potential in him and they promoted him. And he went from director of growth. Now he's vice president of growth. Now he's one of the top dogs at EXP.
I don't know about that either.
And I love it. I love it. He said he would give me a few moments today. So we're going to sit down and kind of talk a little bit about Tony King, a little about where he's come from, and then very good at real estate. He understands residential real estate. He understands what agents are out there looking for and things that have value to them. And I want to have him kind of like grow or help us kind of talk through some of those things. Yeah. So Tony, welcome on, man.
Shaune, brother, thank you for having me. It's an honor. It's a pleasure to be in this fancy studio you got here, man. I didn't know this was here. You're super fancy.
I've done. I mean, I really enjoy it. That's Cherry Creek Mortgage. I'll give them a shout out. They're the ones that offer the facility and allow us to kind of come in here and do these type of things. So very excited to be able to use it again. So Tony, you've been in real estate how long? How many years?
Goodness. So my background goes at nearly 20 years, like 18, 19, something like that.
Okay.
So been doing it a long time, sort of started out as an investor. Before that I was in the Marine Corps and I had the unfortunate occurrence of getting hit by a roadside bomb over in Iraq, Fallujah. I would not recommend it.
Right. It's funny how you look at life, right? Is that a good thing or a bad thing for you looking back now? I wouldn't recommend other people getting blown up.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But all of a sudden,
worked out well for me.
What's God done for you, right? He's obviously created an opportunity for you.
Exactly.
So it's grounded you.
That's it.
And then from there, you got hit, and then you went into. So why did you get into real estate?
Yeah. So while I was in recovery from that process, I read a little book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
I know you're familiar with it. And I was like, yeah, no, this is it. So that was sort of one of those catalyst points. And I said, hey, when I get back from my deployment, which I did, and I spent my deployment money on my first investment property, and I began to sort of just go from there, right? So I would purchase homes and flip them, or for sale by owners and all that kind of stuff. And that was sort of kind of how I started, and subject tos and lease options and wholesales and that stuff. And as I began to pick up some traction with that, my friends and family would sort of lean on me and say, hey, Tony, help us negotiate this deal. How much you think this house is worth, right? That kind of stuff. And I was like, man, if I had a real estate license, I could help out my friends and family and maybe pick up a paycheck on the side, right? For helping them, give them some advice. Plus, I could save money on commissions because who wants to pay agent commissions, right? When
if you're the owner,
I was like, yeah, exactly. So I was like, man, I'm gonna get my license, and that's sort of how I started.
What area? Was it here in Dallas?
No. So that was up in Northern Ohio, Michigan, Southern Michigan area was where I sort of started my investment career. And then
so you grew up in that area, right?
Detroit.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, Detroit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So, Toledo.
It's all the same to me because I never go up there. So
right.
This whole area up there. So we got Ohio, you got Michigan.
Exactly.
Up in the north.
I was born and raised Toledo, Ohio, which is basically right on the state line between Ohio and Michigan. I tell people Detroit because no one knows where Toledo, but Toledo is like 30 minutes south of Detroit.
Gotcha.
So, but anytime we want to go to somewhere fancy, we end up going up north to Detroit typically. So.
Okay. So, and then you lived there, you did the military, and then you came back home and started doing all that there. And of course, you grew up there, so you knew friends, family, and opportunities there.
Yep.
How long were you doing the investment stuff before you decided you just go get that license?
Yeah. So
a year or two in? Or?
Yeah. Only a few years in. And then, I started really looking at the market as well and saying, hey, like they're starting to take off this real estate thing, but is there a better opportunity out there, right? Because at the time in Detroit, specifically in that area, properties are very, very low, $25,000 and that sort of thing. And I started looking.
This is late 90s.
This is early 2000s, yeah,
okay.
in that timetable.
Okay.
So I said, man, you know what? I started to look at just demographic data and like where people are moving away from and where they're moving to. Is the market increasing or declining? At that time, the market was sort of declining. It was like, hey, why am I flipping houses in a declining market at lower price points when there's higher price points? I mean, it's the same process to flip $300,000 house that it is a $30,000 house.
Sure.
So why am I doing it here? So we started looking, and obviously Texas was on the top of every list, and Dallas was at the top of every Texas list, right? So, my wife and I moved down to Dallas, and this is sort of where we've been ever since. So,
okay. Where did you move? Or to?
Initially,
I know where you live now, but that wasn't the same city
now.
20 years ago.
That's very true. That's very true. So we started in Fort Worth.
Okay.
So we moved down to Fort Worth, just west of Fort Worth in Saginaw, in this area. Well, not this area, but. And then we moved to Frisco. Once we learned like, hey, what's what and where should we move and all that kind of stuff, we moved to Frisco, and that's where we've been.
Like last 10 years?
Yeah.
About 10 years.
About 10, yeah, something like that.
Okay. So you've been in Frisco, and you were a real estate agent up there. You came here, got your license here in Texas.
I didn't have to be an agent up there to do a lot of the things I wanted to do there. Like, it didn't require a license.
Okay.
I got my license.
The Trek here in Texas.
Yep.
Okay. I like how you talk about the turnover, because, if you're in a declining market, turnover is going to be a challenge.
Right.
But I've been blessed. I've been here in Dallas-Fort Worth since 85, 86. So it's mostly what I know.
Yeah.
I've lived in Flower Mound, Highland Village, Plano, and I lived actually on Preston before Frisco remotely existed. This is like 99, 2000, and it was 289, which is Preston, was a 2-lane road going up into Frisco. And they were just putting in subdivisions. There was like nothing else,
Totally different.
We all have this experience, right? Wow, where I grew up, it's exploding, and unbelievable explosion in Frisco.
It doesn't even look the same, right?
It was raw land, and now you got skyscrapers,
horses, and
where FC Dallas is, right. Where the Cowboys moved their entire operation there. They got the Star,
PGA.
Yeah, PGA's moving their operation there. I think Disney World is trying to put some of their
Universal
Universal Studios. So anyway, it's a wild popping place. It was not like that when I was out there.
For sure.
All right, so you got your license here. So I know at some point you got to make a decision. Do you want to get in a transition where you're teaching other agents and grow into a brokerage, or you want to just maximize the amount of houses you can sell? So at some point you made a change.
Yeah.
Because it's a difference.
Sure.
You can kind of stabilize, almost go from pure commission to now you make a piece of other people and help them grow. Right. So how did you get into that transition?
Yeah. So it's an interesting story, I guess, with that. So, when I first got here and I got, my license, and I quickly became the number one agent at that small sort of boutique brokers. When I first got down here, I sort of flipped 2 houses, I think, and, made some decent money on those flips. And then my wife actually reached out and said, hey, babe, you love marketing, you love advertising this stuff. Why not? And now you have a real estate license. So why don't you send out a marketing letter or something? I was like, why don't I do that? Right. So
it's going to hurt.
It
means they want to talk to you.
That's it. So I put a little postcard, little, marketing piece together, picked a little community to farm.
And this is the Saginaw?
This was in Frisco. We'd already moved to Frisco.
You already moved to Frisco. Okay.
Yeah. So I picked a little neighborhood in Frisco that I wanted to farm.
Yeah.
And I printed out 50 of these letters that I sent them out. And I got my first call on that. Actually, I got 3 calls from that, just 50 letters I sent out. I got 3 calls, and I took my first listing on that, and it was a $750,000 listing, and I got both sides of it, right? So 6%.
You brought the buyer. Very cool.
Yep, 6% on that. And I was like, yes, please. I'll do more of this. So, you mean to tell me
it's going to take me 3 flips and stress? And
That's it. It's like, you mean to tell me I don't have to put hundreds of thousands of dollars at risk, first of all. I don't have to worry about hard money lenders breaking my kneecaps, right? If I'm late for my interest payments, stuff like that. Contractors, I don't have to worry about this stuff. I just sell this guy's house or someone else's house, and I can make 6% on that. Are you kidding me? So I was all in at that point, and I was like, let's take some of this flip money or some of these profits from some other investments. Exactly. And let's go all in on some of this marketing. Quickly became the number one agent at that small boutique brokerage I was at. Yeah. It was kind of one of those flat fee models. No help, no nothing. But then I was like, yeah, man, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. So I needed to be with a big brand, or at least that's what I thought. It's like I didn't plug into a mothership. So I went over to REMAX, jumped on the big balloon for a little while. I was number one at that Frisco office that I was at. But I sort of hit the ceiling, right? Because at that point, I got to the point I was doing, 50, 60 deals myself. Nice. Right. So no, it's not nice.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. That was the thing.
I'll say this, Tony. It depends on how you build a scalable business.
That's my point.
Most people don't. That's my point. They do the work and they run around like crazy to manage this.
Yep.
I totally get that.
And
And
you
we're
get the
gonna come
ups
back
and
to
the
another
downs.
point. Go
Well, and
ahead.
that's the thing. And you get the ups and the downs, right?
Yeah.
Because, when you're running around like crazy, closing 10 deals in a month, you don't have time to really work on the marketing piece
That's
or
right.
the responding and the follow-ups and all that stuff. So then it's feast and famine. And they didn't really, again, loved the time I was at REMAX, but I didn't tap into any of those resources that they may or may not have available. I wouldn't know, right? Because I wasn't plugged into them. So very little in the way of help or mentorship or guidance on like, hey, how do you do a team or like, what should I do? So I knew I was done at that point. I was like, I need to get some help. Am I going to start a brokerage? Am I going to start a team? Am I going to go to a different model or like, what am I going to do? So I started doing some research because the money was good, but just the time.
Let's hold for just a
Sure.
second. I love this because you got a lot of different nuggets in there that's really valuable.
Yeah.
That you go through the pain, right? You got to go through and experience that. And the high lows is very common for agents, right? I read a book, and one of the things it talked about was you can't build a business of customer service. You got to continue to market.
Love it.
Right? Because you're going to end up dying if you don't continue to keep your pipeline rolling and full.
That's it.
So when you're doing everything, and then by the time you get to the 10, oh my gosh, I got to go get 10 more real quick. And then your income's like this, like crazy.
Exactly.
The other really cool thing that you talked about, so you go from a small flat fee brokerage, and I know the allure of it, it sounds incredibly opportunistic where, well, I know enough about real estate, or maybe they've closed 4 or 5 deals. I don't really need support. I never called the broker anyway.
Yep.
And when you take away all the support and you're out on your own, they don't care if you're selling or not. There ain't nobody there calling you. There's no conversation. There's no accountability. It's just, hey, either I'm paying monthly or I pay per transaction. And, there isn't really any real other benefit doing that. The problem is 99% of people are not inherently like you, entrepreneur. I'm going to go invent something. I'm going to go create something. They kind of have to be told a little bit, right? This is the next step you need to do. That's the support thing that a lot of people are missing when they go to those flat fee agencies. And then the other side is you mentioned going to the balloon. So I can't tell you, it's probably been about 10 years. I had people absolutely convinced that the balloon was selling houses for them. And I come back now looking hindsight, I look back and I realize I had this conversation often. I said, none of those brands will ever sell houses for you. They're not giving you leads. And when the client finishes working that transaction with you, they're never going to call that broker again. Right. So they sold you this bill of goods that the broker's the one selling houses. They're not. You as the individual agent are the one selling houses. When you leave and go somewhere else, they're calling you wherever you win if you have a good relationship with them.
That's it.
So very
it's
important.
your business. It is your business.
That's what made sense about EXP for me is that the general public, I'm going to share some things you may not have kind of thought about this way. The general public doesn't know who EXP is. My friends, family, none
Why
of them.
should they? And that's kind of the plan.
Yes.
Right.
So the
By
intention
design.
is to make Tony King amazing.
That's it.
Your brand amazing. Like that's the whole purpose. And that's why I like it. And I don't pay for any advertisement I don't need. I don't pay for the brand. I don't pay for buildings. I don't pay for computers. I don't pay franchise. I don't pay anything I don't need. It's $85 a month.
Yep.
And I get everything I need.
Yep.
So I love that kind of basic model at that point.
Yep.
And if you icon, you just get all your money back.
Right, exactly. So you don't pay anything. Yeah.
You're having a lot of success there, and you were at REMAX, and then you were looking at the struggles and the stress and you were having to make a decision. What's the next move? Where would I want to go?
Exactly.
That's where you're left.
So I started looking at, different models that were out there. And at that time, the Redfin model sort of made sense for where I was at. And,
what about it made sense? I'm curious because I look at it now, and I'm sure you look at it now differently.
Sure.
But at the time it made sense. What made sense for you?
There was a component of the help that I needed, support, exactly, without having to pay for some of the expenses. Like I didn't have to hire a transaction coordinator because they had one that they would, give me and sorts of things like that. So showing agents, I didn't have to go out and find my own showing agents.
They took almost all of the risk out. Which is that's an attractive thing.
It was, exactly.
They made you an
and
employee.
Then marketing leads and things like that as well.
So you go from a 1099 to an employee, right?
Exactly.
That's a big change too. So you take away the risk. It sounds really good.
Some of it, right? Healthcare, stuff like that, right?
It does. It sounds really good.
Yeah.
You know the craziest thing about this, not to take you too
long,
is you look at a system like that, and 99% of agents are entrepreneurs, or they should be. How in the world are they going to go from being an employee at a company to a 1099 back to being an employee again? Which, by the way, when COVID hit, laid off half their company.
There was a lot of layoffs going on.
Okay, but I'll let you keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, from there, I said, hey, I think this model might make sense for me in this next season. And I'm going to. And at that time, they brought me on board as the listing agent. I say the because there was only one listing agent for the whole region of DFW.
Cool.
So the guy that they had, who now has come to join me at EXP, but the guy they had that was running that whole market, he was doing about 100 deals a year, and then he was going off to California because like, I'm gonna do 100 deals a year. I'm gonna do it in California and make more money. So I sort of took over the DFW market from him.
Which the average Redfin agent sells a lot more real estate than the average agent in general.
Agreed.
Because of that system.
Yes. So, and that was my goal coming in. I was like, man, if he did 100, I want to do more than 100 my first year. And that was my goal, right? And I hit that goal. So I got, I think, 112. I did about 112 transactions my first year, full year with Redfin. And, you know, again, the money's great. However, there's flaws in every model, right?
Sure.
Except one. No, I'm kidding. But, you know, there's flaws in that model. One of them is like you have to close. The reason why, by the way, they do so many transactions because you have to, right? Because like 90% of the commission goes to Redfin-ish, right? So, you know, when you're paying a kind of crazy split, at least at that time, I think they've changed maybe the model since then, but, you know, the split was sort of outrageous. So you have to do a lot of transactions in order to sort of make a good income there. So that was sort of the reason behind that. So, and I'm getting to your question, right? Your question is like, how do you transition from selling a ton of houses to then, you know, running management, right? Exactly. So because of the success, I ultimately ended up being the number one agent at the whole company, at all of Redfin. So at one point I was the number one guy, and they said, well, hey, I wonder if he can duplicate this success, all right? So I was one of the first team managers, and they were like, hey, we need to like try this team model out. We'll put you as a team manager and see if you can duplicate this success amongst the rest of the agents in this area. So when they first kind of brought me in, I had about 6 agents that they put under me. And then I grew that team from about 6 agents to 16 agents in about 6 months' time, right? And they were one of the top teams out of the whole company during the new team model. So they were like, wow, like this guy's freaking crushing it. And then they were like, hey,
do a team model at Redfin.
Again, it's employee-based model, but you have a team of, you know, 2 or 3.
Support each other kind of thing.
Yeah, like and kind of pods and partnerships and that sort of thing. So at Redfin, at least at the time, don't know now, I haven't been tracking, but they have buyers agents and sellers agents. So they're separate. Like one agent just focuses on buyers. Yeah. They have buyers agents, sellers agents, and associate agents, which are like your showing agents, open house
that are not Redfin.
Right. Well,
like
those are 1099. Right? No, that's separate. So there's another program called the Redfin Partner Program, right? So there's the buyer's agents, the seller's agents, and then there's the associate agents, which are like the showing agents and hosting open houses, stuff like that. Gotcha. Then you have the partner program, which is like where they refer leads out.
So buyer agents are writing contracts, working like buyer agents. Associates are doing intermediary work before it's like an upgrade. Or you move from associate up to...
Well, those are 1099. So they're
1099.
Yeah, those are 1099. So they get paid per event, right? So like you go show a house, you get $50, right? You host an open house, you get $100, right? So that's kind of a contract.
I kind of like all that, actually. I mean, there's some things about it I kind of like the way they structure. You're losing relationship opportunities.
But you can't sell
and you can't sell.
Right.
But like there are people that just they just want to do real estate activities, but they don't really want to work buyers and sellers. They don't want to negotiate. You know, it's strange to get a license to go through all that. But there are people that just like, they're a retirement age. You're like, you know, I just want to show houses.
Yeah, sometimes. You know, and there's other models like with EXP, you know, and that's sort of where like our by referral only program comes from, right? So we have a referral program where if you want to just sort of stash your license, sort of do put things, you know, around.
It's a reduced monthly deal. Mm-hmm. You don't get stock.
And the most important thing is that, you know, you don't have to pay MLS fees.
You don't have MLS fees.
Right. So you don't have a lot of the expenses that you're paying to just kind of keep up. And
it's park your license option.
Right.
Or you can do some supplemental things.
Right. And you give your referrals out to an EXP agent. You still get to make income revenue based off of your network. And, you know, you talk about retirement. If you spent 20, 30 years building this database, last thing you want to do is, you know, if you went in and you were an associate agent, you'd have to give those away to someone else. And you don't get anything. Right. So that's sort of one of the flaws there, that as you look sort of long term, it may not make so much sense for you. But yeah, so ran the team. And at that point, they were like, man, you know, this team is crushing it. And the opportunity came up for me to become the broker. So they're like, hey, we need to just let you run the whole brokerage for Texas. Exactly. So at that, and the time I was there, we went from about 200 agents to about 700 agents in about 5 or 6 different markets: Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and then a handful of El Paso. And I was the broker for the state. And at that point, I was kind of rocking along, and then somebody, slid in my DMs on LinkedIn and told me about this opportunity at EXP. So, and then when I saw it, it's one of those things that, as you see it and you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
So somebody hit me on the DM, and the designated broker for EXP was actually stepping down. And they were like, hey, we need someone that is familiar with, multiple markets, running, several hundred agents, familiar with multiple different models and different things. And like, there's a very short list of individuals that check, offices over 500, multiple regions, all these things. So like, hey, we think you'd be a great fit. And
can you tell who sent you that message?
A recruiter. It was one of the corporate recruiters.
Corporate recruiters.
Yes.
So on the inside of EXP, not an agent.
Correct. Not an agent.
Yeah.
And I'll come.
It's funny you say that, because I think about, anyone could have invited you.
Yep.
Anyone.
It's funny, and Gene Frederick tells the same story. If you haven't had him on the podcast, right? I've already mentioned I was the number one agent at my small boutique brokerage.
Yeah.
I was the number one agent at REMAX, or at my REMAX office. Number one agent in all of Redfin. Became the broker, and during the whole time period, no one had reached out and told me. Not one agent had told me about EXP. Not one.
Yeah.
And even while I'm in the process of reviewing models, like, oh, do I want to do KW? Do I want to do this? What do I want to do? Start a team at REMAX? No one had reached out. I didn't know EXP was a thing, because it makes sense. Had I known then, my gosh, it'd be insane. But
what's hard, Tony, is the most successful agents are the ones you don't want to reach out to.
Right.
That's how it is.
Yep.
But they're the ones that understand it the fastest.
That's it. And that's what Gene said. Like with Gene,
it clicks so fast. Like, that's why, not to say I was great or anything, but I had my own brokerage for 10 years, and I saw this. I'm like, wait a minute, get rid of all my liability, still run my same brand, my team, because EXP is not interested in growing EXP brand.
Right.
They want to grow my brand.
That's it. Platform for you.
And I can just continue to add agents that pay on levels, which my company, I could pay on levels.
Right.
It's like,
you could, but good luck figuring it out. It's
well, there isn't a way to do it, because there's not enough money to split. And you have to build a system that supports itself.
That's it.
I couldn't just duplicate that. There's all kinds of companies out there.
You can try.
Duplicate. But it's really hard to have it support itself is the problem.
That's it. And when you say support itself, then you end up with the debt and the liability and the unsustainability. Like, hey, this is not going to work. Like, look down the road, a lot of these things are not going to work. I mean, you don't have to be super businessman Elon Musk or something to look down the road and see that this is not going to be great long term.
It's incredible that we're completely cash healthy. We have no debts.
Yep.
And 50% of the cap that we pay to EXP goes to our upline.
Run the whole company.
It's unbelievable to think that, right? Like, when people don't want to pay their money to I have the opposite. I don't know what it is about, like, EXP's created this thing. I want to give everything, and I want to run every transaction through EXP, everything. Yep. Even though I get sometimes side deals that I don't necessarily need to or have to, I still pay my brokerage.
That's it.
Because I want it all to apply. I get stock, I get cap, I get my icon status, I get all my cap back. Yep. Give it to them.
And by the way, you are a shareholder of EXP, so when you run these deals through EXP,
that's right.
It increases our worth as a company, which increases your and we're talking passive now income for the company that you own. We're talking, increasing your assets.
Yeah, there's always that perception that we're like this network marketing type business, but the reality is we make 100% of our money on commission. It has to be a real product and a real opportunity. None of us are getting paid just because we sign up.
We have to sell houses. And not just sell houses. I mean, we sell more houses than anybody. I know that you've probably seen that or shared it, but we're number one on Real Trends for every category that matters.
Yeah, this year was the first year. I think we hit all of it.
Yep. Well, all the ones that matter, right?
Not to call any local places, but if you ever talk to someone at a KW, they're married to their building and their facility, and they think that their top agent is the number one in the world. They have this perception. Or they think their office is the number one office. They know how to continue to promote. And so I was talking to one the other day, and I said, so who's your top agent? And they gave me the name. I said, I know them. And I said, they know me too. And I said, what do you think they did last year in sales? And they said, oh, yeah, something like 25, 30 million. I said, I'm just a little guy working out of Grapevine. I did 38 million.
Right.
I said, they tell you things that are not true. And I'm telling you, you need to see the real.
Look at the numbers. Numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie.
And we have more agents, and I know every year it's going to get more and more like these. They do these events where they celebrate agents, and they all get up there and they get awards and stuff like that. It's going to eventually get taken over. Half of it's going to be EXP.
Yeah,
just because the top agents are going there.
And beyond that, I mean, and you sort of missed the segment at our last regional rally, but we're number one at the national level. We're number one across the board, and I think our marketing team is doing a good job of sort of promoting that. Right here in Texas, though, right, we're the number one brokerage across every metric that matters. Additionally, right here in the DFW area, and I would encourage anyone, like, hey, my conversation is easy, especially here in the DFW market, in Houston, and a few other spaces. It's like, hey, ask your broker to pull the market share report. Yeah. And if he if he's honest with you, he will. If he's not honest, he probably won't, or she. But we're number one across every single category: buy side, sell side, market share, listing, whatever you want to call it, volume, transaction count, agent count. I mean, number one in every single category that truly matters, right? So it's an easy conversation.
Yeah. So now you're a broker at EXP. That's where we're at.
So they brought me over, and I got here as soon as somebody told me, I was like, here. And again, that's funny because
what was that transition? Did you put in your notice and just went? I mean, what kind of you talking a month? That's a big change.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, like I said, I'm a decision maker, and
like non-competes and all kinds of other things kind of play in this. I'm sure you go from broker of one operation, a big company, to a broker of another operation of a big company. Any of that slow you down? You just ran?
Yeah, no. We just, I was pretty good on negotiating terms on the way in, and like when I was there.
They're not going to owe you forever.
Yeah, exactly. So it was amicable on the way. I'm grateful for the time that I spent there, and that, by the way, when I became a team manager over there, that's really what sort of sparked that. To answer your question, I had an agent that was a struggling agent when I took over the TM, and I took her from being a struggling agent that was doing 2 or 3 deals a month, right? So that's sort of below the bar of what the expectation is. Yeah. And I took her from there to being the number one agent at that brokerage under my leadership, right? And when she got to stand up on stage and said, I'm here because of Tony King and because he helped me, like that was the second sort of shift moment, right? Where I was like, I'm done selling houses. Like this is what I want to dedicate the rest of my life and my career to.
That's what gives you energy.
That's what gets me up in the morning. Exactly. Because I reached the point, honestly, when I took over the team manager role, where I felt like the guy on those old donut commercials. I don't know if you remember the Dunkin' Donuts commercials back in the day, where he's like, "Time to make the donuts," and it's like that. That's what it felt like, because it's like, all right, someone would call me for a listing, and I'd be like, oh, another listing, right? And it's like because what you do 100, 200 listings in a year, and it's like, oh, another one, and that's sort of how I was feeling. Yeah. And that having an agent, teaching an agent, and having them go from 2 deals a month to 20 deals a month, and saying, hey, I did this because of what I learned from Tony. That was an all-inspiring sort of experience for me. I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do, and that never ends, right? So it's something that I can do, and their only limit is how many agents are out there that I can help take their business from where it is now to where they want it to be, and how I can help them sort of fill that gap. So that's the high I've been on ever since that agent was on stage and said that. I was like, yeah, no, this is what I'm going to do. This is my thing now. So then it became, how many agents can I help? And when the EXP opportunity came along, it's like, man, you're going to let me have the opportunity to help 6,000 agents. Yeah. And then we grew that 6,000 to 10,000 almost. Yeah. And at that point, our C-suite was like, yeah, there's something special in Texas. We want you to just focus on the growth piece in Texas.
So what does that mean? Like, director of growth is where your next promotion from broker of Texas, you went to director of growth for EXP. What is director of growth?
Yeah, so
do they even give you a job description, or you have to make it up?
It's growth, right? So continue to grow Texas, period. I mean, that sort of was the role, and that's anything from productivity per agent to also just the total agent count. Those are sort of the 2 key metrics that we're looking at, is total agent count and then productivity per agent. And then, the volume and all that kind of stuff comes with it, transaction count.
Why do that? Why not just keep you as the broker and continue to grow as it is?
I believe that a lot of the
duties and
success
things you need to cut.
Well, I would say that, for whatever reason, I'm not taking this, but, they looked at it as, hey, there must be something. And my name got passed around as one of the reasons why the growth had been so exponential in Texas. Okay. So they said, hey, if we remove these other things, if we remove the lawsuits and the TREC complaints and the, angry clients and the managerial duties and having to manage, personnel issues and hirings and firings and all this kind of stuff, and said, hey, you just do the growth piece, would you excel there? And I was like, heck yeah. Like, you mean if I didn't have to do all this other stuff and I could because growth is already a part of that job, right? So being that growth person is already a part of being a broker, of course. So when they removed all of the sort of ancillary tasks and said, hey, just do the growth piece, I was like, heck yeah. Like,
let's kind of feel like different people, don't they? Like someone that's promoting and marketing and growing the business versus someone that's doing the actual broker duties of And
You
we're
know,
this big, you're going to have a lot of broker duties.
yes.
Lots of complaints and things to work through.
Well, and I think that that's a misconception, or at least that is the case, but it should not be the case. And that was something that I think that our C-suites, the Michael Valdez's, and they saw unique, I think, in me, was that I look at those as one and the same, right? Because the reality is I heard it this way from one of my directors just yesterday, that the growth department and the sort of growth job, that's dating, and then the operations department is the marriage, right? So you can't have one without the other. These things are inextricably linked. You have to have the dating phase where we're like whining and dining and telling you how awesome the EXP is and showing you and dating you, courting you. And then when you get here though, now we're married, right? So now as the broker, I'm the first delivery of that promise. If I'm the broker, I'm the first, all that stuff that they promised you, that's me. Hello, here I am, right? So that's how I looked at it as the broker, is I am the delivery of the promise that the growth team or that your sponsor or that whomever introduced you to the model, whatever you thought you were getting, it's me as the broker. And that's how I ran the broker team. And that's why they saw the success. I mean, even across EXP, while I was the broker, we won broker team of the year twice in one 12-month period. No, broker team of the month twice in one 12-month period. And then went on to win broker team of the year as well. So, that had never happened in all of EXP. So again, it's the mindset that I had, that our broker team had, to really have that growth mindset already. We had a growth mindset, and that really was the key to success. And that's ultimately why it's grown. It's the number one state for growth. So then when it came time to promote someone, they were like, hey, who would you promote besides, the number one state for growth, right?
Sure.
So that sort of was the thought process there, at least I think. Bring Michael on and ask him. I don't know.
Well, and being an agent in this state, and with you being the broker, I mean, you have the personality, you have the charisma, you have a lot of good qualities, and people trust you. I mean, you certainly have a lot of those
You're so
those things
sweet, Shaune.
we actually did meet a couple times before, even the last few things, because you'd come up here. Well, I guess you were already here. I always assume that it's like Austin or something. I thought
Everybody thinks I'm from somewhere else. It's funny. Like I'm in Austin. They're like, oh, I thought you were in Houston.
Well, it's because Texas is the greatest country in the U.S.
That's it,
right?
that's
So
it.
we have like different parts of our country here in Texas.
Yeah.
So I always think you're like kind of like some. I don't know why. I was thinking you were from Austin. You like drove in just to go to one of our meetings. Like, oh, great! I get to say hi to him.
Hey, listen, if that makes people show up and hold me in high regard, I'll take it. Like, fine.
Well, you'll have to come out and do one of our trainings again.
Yep, I'll drive all the way up.
All right. So now beyond that, I mean, that's director of growth. So you've actually in 6 months, you've
Something
gotten
like that.
promoted again.
Yeah.
To owner. No.
Yes, you are too, though. We're all owners.
That's right. We're
That's
all
it.
owners
I
at
love
EXP. So you promoted to would you say vice president of growth?
Yeah.
So
I like where you're headed, though. You started with C.
Yeah.
Get this.
so what does that mean? What's the difference? Does that mean you're over a bigger area?
Correct. So now.
So director of growth was Texas or kind of a
Correct.
region?
Correct. Texas.
Okay.
Correct. There are regional directors too, but I was, Texas is its own region, right? With 10,000 agents, that's like 10%.
Yeah, it's 10% of
EXP.
yeah, I know.
So like that, it's its own region, and I was the director for that. And now we've done sort of a restructuring on the growth team, and we've done some promotions, and we've moved some people around, and so now I am the vice president of growth, and my chief geographical areas are Texas, Florida, California, Georgia. Sorry, this is pretty new, right? So this is Georgia, North Carolina, also Tennessee, and Kentucky, and then sort of the Gulf Coast region as well. We're sort of talking about doing some horse trading there, but ultimately, almost like half, maybe a little bit more than half of the company is sort of under my purview for growth.
Okay. It's a lot to take
It's
on.
a lot, but it's not just me. So I've got a ton of help. I've got a ton of.
They have a team that you're
Correct. So we have state directors now in at least the larger states, and regional directors. So right now we have a posting for a job title in Florida. I'm looking for a Florida director because the previous Florida director got promoted. Now he is global director of growth because he's fluent in Spanish and like 10 other languages. He's the man, Felix. So now he's gone on to be the global director of growth, or global VP of growth. I'm sorry. And now I'm looking for a backfill for him. So I need a Texas guy.
That means he does growth outside of the U.S.
Correct.
Okay. What is Valdez? What's his role in all this?
Yeah, so he's the chief growth officer. So all the growth.
Everybody reports to him.
Everybody reports to him. Exactly. Yep.
Okay. And he's
So, and then I've got-
second to Glenn.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Well, now Leo.
Well, Leo, right? Yeah, because Leo is now the new CEO.
Yes,
That's right. That was a big change too.
that is a lot of.
I love this.
exciting times.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
Like,
So we also brought over.
the Glenn it hasn't really been stale. There's only been Jason's always been there and Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, we've kind of moved through some different people, and there's a lot of great promotion opportunities and stuff. I'm always positive. I feel very good about where EXP is?
Listen, I can tell you, because I'm sort of behind the scenes now, and especially at this level, this C-suite that we have, I'm excited about the future. It is going to be an incredible ride. We have Brian Ellington, who's our chief learning officer. He effectively built the entire platform that, for that so-called education company that's out there. He pretty much built that. And now he's come here and they've given him, Glenn at the time gave him a clean slate, said do what needs to be done here. Create a system that is going to be bar none, that is going to be the most incredible training, coaching, mentoring model that exists in the real estate industry. That was his charge, and he's off to an incredible start. We actually just launched yesterday the Elevate coaching platform. So that it is incredible. We've got Levi Lassick, we've got Nolly Williams, we've got who else is in Texas? I think there's one other Texas person in there, Dan Beer. I mean, just when I say the best of the best, in their coaching platforms on the EXP platform it's incredible. So
it was one of those understated things we used to have is that people would have like the best guy over in Plano come teach him at their office.
Right.
We got the best guy in the U.S.
In the United States.
We have access to the absolute best of the best.
That's it. Like, who's the best guy on YouTube? Yeah, Levi Lassick, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. And we got his coaching program through EXP University. It's incredible. So we got Brian Ellington. We just brought over Wendy Forsyth, who we got from Compass. We ranked with her. She's been at Fathom. She's been at Compass. She ran marketing for them, and now she's going to run our marketing program. She's our chief marketing officer. Incredible. Obviously, Leo, smartest guy in any room I've been in, right? Michael Valdez, now focused on growth. We're talking about the guy that took us from, one country to 24 countries?
Yeah.
Right? Within like a year.
Has he been here the entire time since we started building in all the countries?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yep. So I think we might have been in Canada or something, but like in like a 12, 15 month period.
Our model here in the U.S., because other countries do not do real estate the way we do real estate.
To him to go in and boom, 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 but 24 countries like that. Like, you know what I mean? So when you talk about someone that has a growth minded, Michael is the most incredible leader that I've ever had access to, put it that way. So, we've got him, chief growth officer, obviously Leo coming in as CEO, sort of as running the ship, even Patrick, our chief operations officer. I mean, our C-suite is poised to crush this thing. And I'm super, super excited about it.
Got me thinking maybe I need to apply for a corporate.
Go ahead, man. Yeah, listen, we're going places. I hear we're going places.
Because I really have no interest in being a broker.
Yeah,
I did that for 10 years as my own, and I just doing that position. But I know sometimes it's an opportunity to gain other future opportunities.
That's it. And I skipped that portion of the story, but yeah, I started my own brokerage for about 6 months, and then I was like, yeah, this ain't it. This ain't it. So
yeah, it's not worth it. So what do you think would be something you'd want to share maybe with agents that are looking at EXP? What would be something for you? Because you've looked at and worked at a lot of the competitors. You've done your own model and you came here. Why did you make that move from a Redfin employee-based top producer running the state, about as good of a position you can get, and then you came straight over to EXP?
There was no hesitation in it. The reality is EXP is the most agent-centric company that I've ever heard of or been a part of. I mean, it is every day we wake up as the executive team, we wake up and ask ourselves, how can we make agents' lives better? How can we put more money in agents' pockets today? Right. And that's the answer that we go to work solving in every day that we possibly can. So that is our value proposition that no one else has. And with the track record to say we've been doing it, we are the number one brokerage. We have more sales, more transactions, number one across all these different categories, because that is the singular focus of our company, is support agents. We are agent success obsessed. Wake up in the morning, how can I help Shaune grow? Wake up in the morning, how can I help Amy grow? How can I help this person grow? And that's all we're looking to do. And we have so many different platforms to allow you to be able to do that. You don't want to sell real estate full-time anymore. Maybe you want to focus on your revenue share business. You don't want to do revenue share. You want stock. You don't want to do stock. We do, mentor program. You don't want to do mentor program. I mean, we have so many different ways to be able to help you get to whatever that goal is for you.
Sure.
And we're so passionate about it.
I think, because I've been here for 6 years. I remember going to some of the early conferences. And Glenn, we used to meet in rooms where we could talk with Glenn, ask him questions. I remember a couple of Glenn stories. So one was he was talking, he doesn't see KW or Coldwell Banker or any of these brokerages that are franchise box models as direct competition. He always looks at the platforms, right? Because he built it as a platform and a system, not about, but what can we do to be the biggest, baddest? If you build the system right, then they will come. And when they come, it will support itself and it'll grow very, very big. And that's always kind of been his thing. But I remember him talking about Gary Keller and said, we all owe a thanks to him because of the things, a lot of things he put in place is what I put in place here, between the 7 levels and things like that. For the one that is the founder and CEO at the time to say that about probably the other guy thinks he's the biggest competition, but Glenn doesn't see Keller directly as competition.
I don't see any.
He sees Zillow, he sees Redfin because it's a platform. He sees a lot of them as kind of the competition. This is him talking 5-6 years ago. And he didn't see the other places as really the competition.
Right. Well, because he's looking at models.
Yes.
So, hey, this is a competing model, but I don't, not to disagree with the almighty Glenn, but I don't see any of those people as competition. Like on the fighting level, like
you looking at this 6 years later, we're whipping them.
We're not.
But that's the way he kind of, I think, thought about it for a long period of time.
Right. And I think that in him looking at it like that, it's proven itself. It is, because he's thinking, hey, how can I make this a better model? How can I make this a better model?
Yeah.
And that's what we went to work doing. Like with, some of the most recent changes that we've had. It's like always, how can we make the model better? How can we make it better for agents, for the agents, not for the company? How do we make it better for agents? And then in so doing, that brings the people that ultimately grows the brokerage, and we continue to be dominant in every category.
One of the things you were talking about earlier, you didn't want to take another listing. Now you're probably at a place where it's the volume listing place. So I can see where that would be a challenge. I think you can do things in a scalable model, which is really, really important, because like for most agents, if they can close, 20, 30 a year, they can have a good living. They're fine. I know I have to close more than 100 a year just to even stay in business.
Yeah.
Because I built a scalable model.
Yeah.
So I can take on as many listings as I can possibly take.
Yep.
And people can build a model that's scalable, that can grow like that. And you can really maximize your opportunities. So there is ways to kind of overcome a lot of those things.
Absolutely.
It's just something that kind of rang to me. You were saying that earlier.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, these are things that you've learned and that, I know now, right? At the time. And I think that's where it's important to have a coach, a mentor. You have someone that has sort of walked that path to be able to look back now and say, hey, man, this is your choke point. Hey, this is the area where your stress is coming from. And this is more importantly, this is how to remove that. So like, that's my focus now. At this point, all I do all day long is I talk to teams, I talk to brokerages, and I help them solve their problem. Right. Typically, in almost all cases now, it's someone outside of EXP. Like it's a mega team, or it's a large brokerage, a broker owner that's driving themselves crazy. And they're like, hey, I got to figure something out. And I take a look at their business and I say, listen, this is your choke point. This is what's stopping you. And then this is how you can remove it. And by the way, this is free advice, right? So whether you go to EXP or not, we've already solved this problem and this is how we solved it. Yeah. You can come here and stand on this platform, keep doing what you do, or take this advice for free, go do it on your own. And we wish you the best.
So is that an opportunity for agents that are communicating with small brokerages? And I say small, boutique offices, maybe they're 10 to 50. I tell you, one of the number one reasons I didn't want to be a broker anymore is I was told you got to have 50 agents to stop selling houses.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I was involved in 80% of my inventory, or my profitability and opportunity, because I only had 10, and I had to get 50 in order to be able to take myself out of production.
But then guess what? Now it's a different job. Now you got to have toilet paper and coffee filters and everything for 50 people running in and out of your office every day, right? And not in that order. Coffee comes first and then the toilet paper. So, but you it's a lot of work for sure that you got to keep up with. Now you got to keep this office, got to have an office big enough to run 50 people out of it, all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, it becomes overwhelming. It becomes this beautiful thing that you've built has now wrapped around your neck. And that's a lot of the conversations I have with teams and brokers, or teamers, as I call them, and some of the stresses and frustrations that they have that they're looking to offload. And we've got the answer for that. Like, we built a 90,000 agent brokerage and have zero, overhead on as far as it relates to buildings and spaces and brick and mortar and stuff like that. We haven't bought a coffee filter yet. So
I always like to emphasize, I pay zero for marketing and for buildings.
There,
I pay zero. I don't pay anything for it.
Yeah.
So I love that. What I was referring to is, like, if I had a small broker or something, I could give you a call, and then we could do some type of conversation on how to make that, conversation where you would talk with them or things like that. Is that where kind of one of your roles or falls within your wheelhouse?
That pretty much is the job. That pretty much is the job, is
transitioning
you have
small brokerages.
That's it. So, we have agents, and obviously our model is sort of baked into this sort of, or shadowed behind that kind of network marketing sort of theology of you have all the relationships that you need to be successful and to help EXP grow.
Yep.
So, teams, brokers, broker owners. So you'd say, hey, listen, take a look at this opportunity. And then, by the way, I know the vice president of the company personally. I can call him right now and we can hop on a chat. He can answer any questions you have or talk about how to make this make sense for you.
Sure.
So I become that third party partner for you, when that target is large enough.
You ever done any network marketing?
I have actually. I have. Back in the day. I think
I ask as often, and surprisingly, most people have probably had some.
I think everyone's done, one or two. So, and it's funny, but
vacuums where we don't.
No, yeah, I was selling Cutco knives. No, I was part of. Was it Prepaid Legal or Legal Shield?
I did Prepaid Legal.
No kidding.
I did back in '90s.
Yep.
Yeah, that's when my parents got into it. And so I was like, yeah, I like this. It's a few bucks a month. I get legal insurance that'll cover, in case anything happens, things like that.
So, and, with that model, I hit ED, which is the executive director. I hit that.
I think they started out of Oklahoma.
Yep. Yeah, right up the road.
Totally. We go way back.
We do. So Brian Carruthers, actually, I don't know if he was in it when you were. Was he in it when you were in it?
No idea. This is 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. So Brian Carruthers actually went on to become the number one agent, their number one guy.
Probably selling to businesses.
He personally recruited over 5,000 people to that model. But get this though. So he actually at one point was, I believe, he says that he was the largest shareholder of EXP at one point, right? Because he got the model.
Yeah.
And we've had him since. Like he came to one of our mastermind events and spoke to some of our top agents in our leadership, as well as some of our alphas and betas. And I've had him on my podcast a few times as well. And that system that he lays out in his book is called Building an Empire.
Yeah. And
talks about how he personally recruited over 5,000 people. That is the exact steps that you want to go through as an EXP agent. So anyone out there, I always encourage people to get that book because people stop me and say, hey, Tony, how do I grow a big ratio business? I say, hey, read this book. And then also put me on the phone with a broker or team or someone that and let me be that third party resource for you. So
I love it.
I'm
going to take that tip. I'm going to go
get that book. Or you can watch the podcast. Like I said, I've had him on my podcast twice. So he is the man. He's the man for sure.
Very cool. Anything else you would like to share before we wrap it up today?
No, man, just that I'm here, right? So, I appreciate you having me on. I'm accessible, obviously, to you, but anyone watching this or watching your show, they're all my family now. So hit me up anytime. I'm happy to help businesses grow any way that I possibly can. So whether you're with EXP or not, freely is given to me, freely I give to you. So that's how it goes.
I like that mentality. I do a lot of coaching and training, and I've never charged for anything at this point.
Right.
I know at some point I'll have to build some type of model where I can be compensated for the amount of good information I share. But at this point, I've always given everything away. And I don't care where they work. They can work for EXP, they did not work for EXP.
Whatever. Yeah.
The goal is to give goodwill to everyone. At some point, it will come back, in that role. So
I do it for the stories. Like I said, and it doesn't have to be on stage, right? But that was the first one that kind of caught me was when she was on stage and saying this. But ultimately, just hit me a text like, hey, man, I tried that thing you told me and it freaking blew up. It was awesome. That's why I do this.
Yeah.
I love that. So, yeah.
And getting that kind of response.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Well,
thank you, Tony. I appreciate you getting on. I appreciate all of you guys watching. Very good conversation with Tony. You need access to Tony, give me a call. I charge $10 a call. But if you have anything in regards to director of growth, or I guess not director anymore, vice president, I want to demote you.
It's all good.
Absolutely reach out and we'll have a conversation. If there's anything we can do to help coach or train, feel free to reach out. I appreciate you. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. Is there any specific way you like people to reach out to you or just email?
LinkedIn's probably the best. The Tony D. King. Had to put the because somebody was pretending to be me, which is a weird thing,
That's a good thing. It means that you're so famous.
I don't know.
You have an alias. I don't have an alias.
The Tony D. King on everything, right? I'm on LinkedIn and TikTok and Twitter. And for some reason, my daughter's an EXP agent as well.
Very cool.
And she has me on Discord, whatever the heck that is. But it's the Tony D. King at all those places. So hit me up. I'll look for you.
I love it. Our person recording thinks that's hilarious. She got Discord. She knows that Discord.
Okay, good. So she knows that. She's
all right, I appreciate it. You guys know where I'm at. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Shaune Corbett. Thanks. Till next time.
That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.